So you want to can your homebrew. Great idea. So did I. And so I did. So I'll tell you all about my experience with the Cannular manual canning system. What I liked, what I didn't like, what was tough, what was awesome. Clearly the beer part was cool. I am very excited about my recent acquisition of this Cannular can seamer that I acquired from the wonderful, wonderful internet for a dirt cheap price. And that makes me happy. But, you know, it turns out what would be really cool and rad and awesome is if I could can my homebrew in a can that actually stayed sealed. And I haven't been able to figure out how to do that just yet with this thing. I went through the manual and tried to get it set up, but I ended up with homebrew that leaks right out of the top of the can. Now I am confident that this is a user error situation. Not being the most mechanically inclined person in the world, I thought that what might be less frustrating than trying to figure that out on my own is to figure it out in front of a camera and post it on the interwebs for everyone to look at and comment at. So I'm going to use the internet manual that I found to try and go through that and figure it out. The manual says to start out by taking off the top, which I already did, but I'm going to restart this whole process. Don't forget to unplug the unit before you start trying to disassemble it. Safety first. Alright, so the manual here says that you need some feeler gauges in order to make sure that the space between the roller and the chuck is right. So I've got these handy dandy feeler gauges on Amazon. I'm going to use these to test it out. So I've been fiddling with this thing, reading through the manual and adjusting these rollers here for about the last hour. So hopefully I've got the rollers adjusted to the right gap between the rollers and the chuck. It's going to be different for your model based on what you have. I'm going to go ahead and try it out, and then I'm just going to do operation number 1 so that I can cut it open and check my actual overlap. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut a wedge in this can with a little Dremel rotary tool. Actually, I can't really tell whether I've got it right, but that's first operation. Lock it in. Alright, I don't think that worked. You can see I've got a little leakage coming out. Especially if I shake her up here. Oh yeah, there's definitely leakage coming out. Alright, so that's another failed attempt. Alright, trying again. Alright, so my next attempt here, what I did this time is lifted the, whatever you call it, the little seat where the can sits. I lifted that just a tiny bit so that the can sits more snugly, so that when I push it up, you actually have to kind of give it a little bit of pressure there. So we're going to try that out. Alright, so I just canned beer in this one. That actually looks a lot better, I think. I don't see any leakage yet. If I shake it up, let's see. I think that might actually be good compared to this one that I just did before. Obviously, you can see the problems there. Beer coming out of the ends. So I'm going to try one more, and if it still seems to be working okay, I'll put the cover back on. because it seems to be sealing appropriately. I'm gonna go ahead and put my lid on my cover rather back on my canning machine. So my final impressions of the cannula canner. I like it. I think overall it's positive. I'm really glad to have the ability to can my beers now. I've already had opportunities to go and take them places and share them with different people or offer them as gifts, and that's a really fun thing to be able to do when you're used to only kegging your beer. A couple of things I will say about it. It's a heavy piece of equipment, it's a big piece of equipment, it feels like it's made well. It took me a little while to get it set up the way that I wanted to get it set up, and I wasted about 15 cans getting it right. A couple of tips I would say: make sure you follow the manual to a T. Invest in a set of feeler gauges for sure, so that you can get the width between the roller and the chuck exactly accurate. If you don't get it accurate, the can's just not going to seal. The other thing is, they recommend using an angle grinder. If you've got like a Dremel tool, that's a much more clean way, and I feel like safe way to check your seams. The can lids tend to stick together. I made the mistake on probably 2 cans of trying to seal the lid on with 2 lids on one can instead of just one lid, and then obviously that didn't work out. So make sure, like paper plates, make sure you only have one on each. All around though, once it's set up, I mean, you can pump cans out quickly. And again, it's really fun to have it. So I definitely would recommend it, especially if you can find it for cheap. Cheers.